Hello, I'm Bill Plouffe. I'm Delsey's husband, the famous Delsey from A Life of Heritage. Anyway, we're here today to talk to you about the Swather we bought. New to us, probably not new to most. It is a Heston 6400. It is a early 80s model Swather. Anyway, we just transported it the rest of the way home today. So I want to tell you a little bit about our journey, a little bit about maybe a few things that we should consider before transporting a Swather. Some of it is with our successes of getting it home, but also maybe a couple of failures we have had. So first thing we did was on Monday morning, bright and early, I had a friend of mine. We had gotten a trailer. We had headed out to transport this Swather home. And we get out there, we get the Swather jump started, we get it up to the top of a steep hill to load onto the trailer. We pull the trailer up there and we get the Swather behind the trailer. We go to put the Swather onto the trailer. Come to find out, we probably only had about, maybe 4 to 6 inches of the most of these big flotation tires down here that were going to be on the Swather on each side. So discretion and safety says do not load that on a trailer like that for safety's sake, and not only that, for protection of the investment of what we have into this Swather. So we abort the mission to later on go back out. So Wednesday morning I load up my family, leaving the house bright and early in the morning with tools, some fuel, and jumper cables to go transport the Swather home. So we get there, we put the fuel in, we get the battery jump started, we get the family loaded up into the pickup. We're 30 miles from home. They take off because they have to get back into town for swimming lessons and such. So anyway, they take off. I take off-roading the Swather after we know it's starting and running the fuel in it, and we proceed to come home. I proceed to come home. They already made it home. I get within about 10 miles of home. The Swather begins to not run very well, and it begins to spit and sputter. Finally, basically the engine dying and a dead battery. We monkeyed around with it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and still basically to no avail. Did not get it running like we needed to make it trustworthy enough to get it home that day. So anyway, we aborted the mission once again for the day, and now I will go into maybe a few things that would be really good to consider the next time I decide to move a Swather home that has sat for approximately, possibly up to 2 years. Just to give you a little background on the Swather, I bought it from an 80-year-old gentleman who has retired from farming and ranching here in central Montana. He did it on account of mostly because his eyesight was getting bad and he was getting old, and so therefore he has leased the property out and is selling the equipment off. So anyway, couple of things that we should have probably done before we transported the Swather, and also a few of the things that I did do prior to transporting it. So one of the errors I believe that we did that possibly caused the Swather not to run properly, caused deficiency with the Swather, is the fact that the battery had been basically what I'd say dead. The discharge had gone out of it, and that we should have pulled the battery prior to transporting it home, brought it home, and sufficiently charged it with a slow trickle battery charger, which I did last night when we got home, and it took quite some time to get it charged. I think that was what was affecting my ignition switch system, not causing the proper spark that I needed to make it work properly. The other error that I had was the gas, what little gas was left in it, what had actually probably went bad. As my dad would have said, it shellacked, went stale, whatever you want to say in that. So with that said, I should have gotten some form of gas line or fuel supplement to put in it that would have helped stabilize it and taken some of the water and other things out. And then the other thing I did today before we transported, I charged the battery. I did put the fuel line stuff in it, but I also changed the fuel filter, knowing possibly there was sediment in the fuel. And so after I did that, the Swather ran fine. It made it home. Here we sit. Praise God. The other thing we should have done yesterday morning before we transported it, that we did do today before we did transport it, I gathered my family up, we held hands, we prayed and gave honor to God and thanked Him and praised Him and asked for His blessings in it, and lo and behold, here we are. So a few other things that I would suggest that you want to do before transporting a Swather is this. First and foremost, I would say make sure what your state and local laws say as far as transporting oversized equipment on public roads. I know I had my wife flag for me when we got to the busier part and to the tighter areas to get it home. She was in a vehicle with flashers on and a flag in front of me. The other thing is check your oil, make sure your oil level is up. This one's going to need an oil change, but it was at least up enough to get it home. I would check your tires, make sure they're not low. Most of the time on the sidewalls of the tires, it will tell you the pressure that you need as far as for each tire. The other thing is on the header, there are some locking devices. There is one of these locking devices right here. What this is it drops down, and there's one on each side actually. You pull this pin, that drops down, and it locks the header up. This goes against the hydraulic cylinder, so that way the header stays up and it doesn't move. The other thing is this is a safety feature that when I'm changing guard sections or possibly working on the header, that's also a safety feature I would want to put down, so that way if there is a hydraulic failure, the header would not fall on me. And I say this out of probably personal experience, because I have a very good friend whose dad was actually working on a Swather and the header fell on him, and that's actually what had killed her dad. And so I just say that because we can all get hasty at times, and those are little things like that that could potentially save a life. And so the other thing, just like I say, just check the overall condition of your Swather, your machine. Make sure everything's fine to road it home. And so now that we got it home, we will have to, and we will be throughout the next course of the next couple 3 weeks, going through the machine, checking things over, and just making sure that guard sections, I see a few loose things, a few teeth that need changed, fixed, get them totally greased, service the Swather. I'm actually going to contact the gentleman I bought it from, see if he has the owner's manual, the book on it, so I can find all the grease zerks, just change the oil, just make sure everything's ready, so that way here about the 1st of July, give or take a day or two, when we get ready to go swathing, hopefully it'll be up and ready to run, and we can have us a successful haying season. Well, here I am with my family. We have got the Swather home. It's not quite time for haying season. It'll probably be a couple weeks yet, but we're just so excited to get it home that we all just want to take a drive down the driveway, and we need to get the grass cut down a little bit anyway, so we'll knock it down here, just make sure the machine's running or whatever else we need to fix on it. And so, like I said, we're going to take a run down the driveway and I guess we could say mow the grass so it looks nice, and not only that, then we'll clean the grass up and feed it either to the horse or the cow. So are y'all ready?
We're ready.
Is this exciting?
Yay! The maiden voyage of our Swather for us.